Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? And welcome to another episode of the MH podcast, a podcast which is extremely irregular but also very content rich. We have with us a heavyweight of the public speaking world in Pakistan. He's a practicing psychologist. If you are Pakistani, you're likely to know who he is. We're talking about Sahil Adeem. How are you? Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing? It's good to see you. MashaAllah. Sahil Adeem is an Islamic intellectual and academic. He does have a psychology background and he's engaged with the scriptural work as well and the academic studies in Islamic studies. The first thing I want to ask you, because you're based in Pakistan, and Pakistan is, by number in terms of population, is the second most populated Muslim country in the world, very important geopolitical country. What is the feeling in Pakistan vis-a-vis the Palestine question, in terms of the people that you've interacted with, in terms of the public opinion?
Well, public opinion has been unanimously pro
Yes.
action, not just Palestine.
Really?
The next step there, we got to take an action. And the people are just literally calling out that, if you can't go, just send us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about the army. They're just like, if you're not going to go yourself, that, we're voluntarily, women and men together, old people, boys and girls. Well, for youth is very, very energetic about, something has to be done. And that's where my concern is, that if you're not going to do something now, this energy is going to die down. You're going to get immune to not doing anything. And this is why I'm actually touring the world, literally, just to so that make sure that, this sort of a problem, we don't get immune to these sort of problems of not getting to do something about it and still getting used to the fact that, believing ourselves that, we did something, we raised the voice. That's not going to solve anything in Palestine. Raising a voice is not the solution. Actually doing something about it politically. And by the end of the day, it's a game of attrition. And if we have enough millions of Muslims coming together, creating more of a farm that can actually have the potential to literally blow, that's what's going to strike fear in the people who are going to actually make some decisions.
Absolutely. And Pakistan is one of those countries that if anything does happen from there, it's going to have a seismic effect across the whole region. And you're saying that from your interactions with people, people are affected psychologically in Pakistan. They really are.
It's pretty practical depression.
Really?
Like, as literal as it gets now. And people are not just, it's not lip service going on.
Yeah.
As a domestic individual, people are crying, praying. And, just because I move around in universities and, different public sessions, people are just, asking for my account number, like trying to push money. And because I say no, because, we have to actually know where to actually funnel, where, real Gaza help has to go to. So it's not just, they're not just talking about it. They really want to do something about it. And when regular men and women, are so serious about something, that means, it's not just, it's gone deep enough. And my contention is that local Pakistanis are not going to be able to push the snowball. It's not going to create much of an effect. That's why I'm going all over the world. And most of them are Indian Pakistanis. They listen to me. So what I am trying to do is to cover a 360 angle so that we can put more pressure on the Pakistanis and do a very strong political push from the government, so that even if they don't do anything about it, it's not about shooting the gun, it's about showing the gun. And we're not showing the gun. That's my problem, because Israel has to know that, we are carrying. And right now he believes that we're not. And I know why any, Netanyahu would believe that we're not carrying, because they know where the bullets are, and then they have the keys to the safe. And I really need to show any Benjamin or any future Benjamin Netanyahu that it's not just that fact that we're carrying, but we know how to actually shoot. And it's not the government, it's the people. If by the end of the day, if there's enough pressure on any government, let alone a Pakistani government, then, America doesn't really count, or England doesn't really count. And now I know, UK just hit Yemen, and of course UK and America. And it's a decoy. They're going to do whatever it takes so that the Palestine bomb does not detonate. And I believe that Pakistanis can detonate the Palestine bomb, and I'm pretty sure the Iran-Pakistan conflict is another way to release the gas from that, this whole plutonium that is being created.
You mentioned about that people are really affected by this. Would you say it's causing somewhat of a spiritual awakening as well?
so ironic that you said that, because I've been actually moving for Palestine for the last 5 years now.
Yeah.
Actually, way more than that, actually, when Mavi Mamra happened. This is like 6, 7 years ago. And I was not famous enough that people were not, not getting enough numbers. And Pakistan is an amazing landscape where 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds are, really pumping religious content in their cell phone and YouTube. And this Palestine thing, as ironic as these words would sound, could not have come at a better time for a youth to actually come, or a boy or a girl to come into, because we needed a catalyst. And this sort of a thing where there's some serious names doing really good job in Urdu, who are trying to wake up the people. And bring
Sure, you're one of them, really.
Ironically, no.
Yeah.
I actually don't speak to the classical Pakistani.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually speaking in 4 or 5 different cities, which of course speak English and Urdu at the same time. Because I actually believe that it's a top-down thing.
Yeah.
If you can get the intellectual elite to listen to me, then I would have a bigger.
It will have a trickle-down effect on the rest of the populace.
Yeah, exactly. Because they were only general mass.
So do you think that I was going to ask that. Do you think that basically if you want to put it in a crass manner, but people from the, if you like, working classes are more likely to copy from a social perspective those in them?
This is the problem. This is why I actually came to you. Because most of the people, Allah Azza wa Jal didn't design us to copy. He designed kids to copy. Because that was the survival of the child, to copy his father.
Sure.
As soon as we develop the prefrontal cortex, we are designed not to copy.
Yes.
That's against our self-esteem to copy, or even our own father.
Yes.
We have to have our own identity. But people like you, or whoever has a global presence, your responsibility, even everybody's responsibility, is that you don't create your copies.
Yes.
Because if everyone starts to think, and they're going to actually come up with some solution which you and I will now even fathom. Some boy in Tunisia or Morocco or Pakistan, they're gonna, because some of your words are gonna act as a key to unlock an algorithm which his life has to offer to him.
I think it would be probably safe to say that our work, people like myself and yourself, is not telling people what to think, but telling them how to think.
Yes, because you're actually, because this is most of the Muslims in the last 800, 900 years, we've been under a curse. And that's the curse of jurisprudence. Jurisprudence is an amazing thing, but it's for a use. It is not for general like purpose. It is absolutely not for hikmah. Actually, that's the anti-hikmah. Hikmah means that you got to have a precedented, documented process. You got to follow that.
Sure.
But most of the Muslims, especially the Sunni Muslims, they're trained as if fiqh is the only Islam. And that's the only window through which you're going to learn about anything about Islam. So I'm a Shafi'i, by the way. I follow.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I thought you'd be Hanafi.
Yeah, you'd think, because I'm from Pakistan. Yeah, right. Yeah, but I was, I was adopted by the Shafi'i in Canada.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So, or Hanabala, they actually didn't push humble on me. They were like, Jews.
Yeah.
So my son's name is Shafi'i. By the way,
really?
my daughter's name is Hijab.
On the way.
Something which is, my first daughter is Hijab.
Yes.
My son's name is Shafi'i.
Wow.
Because my teacher, because but coming back to the point, it's ironic that we've spoken so many times and on the podcast. I tell you that my daughter's name is Hijab.
No, but it's mad because I was thinking if I had a daughter called Hijab, she'd be called Hijab. I was thinking that would be some kind of ridiculous name.
That's not a word. That's not a girl's name.
No. Yeah.
That's a girl's name in Pakistan.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Well, it's not a common name. My family does not have a common. My name is not common. I'm the only child in Pakistan.
Okay.
Even though it's an Urdu word. So when a Muslim, I'm coming back. I have a way to digress.
No, it's good.
When a Muslim is trained to think fiqh only, he's gonna start to find fiqh in the Quran as well. And he's not gonna find anything else.
I'll tell you what. I've always identified, in the Islamic world, if you like, in Islamic scholarship, as 3 different approaches, 3 general approaches. One of them is, I would call it, in terms of jurisprudence, one of them I would call the Ahl Hadith approach, if you like, or I would call fiqh tarjih, where somebody would come and say, like, for example, this hadith is strong, this hadith is whatever, and whatever. And this has its pros and cons. Then there's the other approach, which is the madhab approach, where you have like 4 madhabs for the most part. Someone just follows the madhab and that's it. And then you got the third approach, which I would loosely refer to as the usul approach. So people like Qardawi and others really went with that one, True. And it's all about how do we, maqasid approach, what are the objectives of Sharia?
What are the objectives?
Right, and all 3 of these approaches really have their strengths and weaknesses. But I feel like if you're dogmatic with one of them, to the logical endpoint of each of them will bring too many negatives. So you have to kind of be balanced in any one you want. So for example, if you're a Shafi'i or Hanbali or Hanafi, whatever it may be, and you don't want to leave the madhab in any way, shape or form, in any mas'ala, this might be problematic, especially when we talk about societal issues.
Big problem.
Big problems might happen. And the same thing applies if you're a maqasidi, because then you can find a loophole for anything. Ad-darurat bil mahdhurat and so on. And if you're going with the other approach, it's like it's going to cause infighting, because that hadith and no, this is my scholar versus your scholar. So really one has to be mature in whatever they decide. And what is really required is someone to have a good backing in for example, a madhab, or more than one madhab, have an understanding of hadith and have an understanding of maqasid, and use this almost in a merged way. What do you think of this?
I think this should be a school level curriculum, so that kids, well, not kids, but okay, high school level, where as soon as he comes into maturity, he would understand that there's more to it than his own Hanifa or Shafi'i.
Sure.
Because most of the people who've been trained into Hanafiya or Shafi'iyya, they don't even know the other person exists. If anything, it creates polarity, and that creates friction. Even though Sahabas didn't think like this.
Sure.
And since Sahabas didn't think like this, they had a higher IQ and a bigger aperture.
Yeah.
And a Muslim today is so narrowed into one-line thinking that he can't think out of the box, and not just about fiqh, about bigger political solutions as well. That's where the IQ of a Muslim is considerably lower than any non-Muslim. Because non-Muslim did not have to have that one-line philosophy. And they were so emotionally and spiritually connected to Islam that anything else can't even come close to the way we are going to pay our life towards, our daily routines, our marital life, our professional lives.
Yeah.
It's all about Islam. So as soon as we know that, there's only one way to think, all of a sudden our brain actually, goes into this little, one-track highway that, we pull our wives and kids and bosses and subordinates and friends. And now Palestine, Israel thing, we can't even think that there's a solution not there in Palestine.
Yes.
The solution is somewhere else. But we're not trained into thinking out of that box.
Yes.
And I think there could be a country, and I actually believe that, if there is a bomb, there's a detonator. There has to be a detonator. We should be looking for a detonator, not a bomb, because the bomb is already there. 2 billion Muslims are crying about Palestine. The bomb is there. We need something to detonate that bomb.
I mean, Pakistan is, like we said before, can come back full circle, but Pakistan is up there in the candidates of big countries that if one move it makes, it's going to make a big difference. But Pakistan, like any other country in the region, is going to act geopolitically responsibly, isn't it? Because we saw it with, for example, Iran, right? When Iran recently struck Pakistan, and then there was some kind of a response, and they resumed.
They blamed it on Israel.
I'm sure that, but that's probably both of them came together and said, let's just use them.
They did. Hezbollah actually tweeted the day Iran struck Pakistan, Hezbollah tweeted. Hassan Nasrallah actually tweeted with brackets that combine exercises going on, and all of a sudden Pakistan retweeted.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
How dare you? And all of a sudden he deleted that bracket.
Oh, I see. Really?
Yeah.
No, but so what I was going to say is that, look, I mean, I studied politics at the undergraduate level some years ago now, right? And there was a school of thought called realism. Okay, and this was really, I would think, the dominant school of thought in international relations, which is that you kind of know what a country is going to do based on its own interests. Okay, and if you look at Pakistan, is doing predictably what it would do based on its own interests, whether it's a Muslim country or not. And what I'm saying now is that, in a sense,
Pakistan is not doing. You see, any classical, most of the Pakistanis are trained into politics.
Sure.
I mean, it's like our thing. I mean, we have to. I mean, any school you go to, they would know exactly what's going on in the political arena.
Sure.
That's because last 2 generations of Pakistan were all about talk shows and politics. And most of the talk shows, most of the TV, all the celebrities are politicians. All the famous guys are journalists who talk about politics. So it's a thing. A child, girl or boy, gets trained into understanding how the political thing works. Even though it's just the democratic side of it.
Sure.
Not the global. Actually, you'll be amazed that most Pakistanis won't even know how to put Palestine on the map. That's how unaware they are in the global arena. I mean, they love Palestine, but they don't know where it is. So, when you come into how a Pakistani would approach realism and their domestic interests and self-preservation of Pakistan, of
course,
you'll be amazed to think that Pakistan most of the time goes against.
Really, bro. Yeah.
It's pretty.
So, can you give me some examples of that?
Sam preservation than anything else.
Give me an example of that. What do you mean?
Well, China, for example.
Okay.
China is treated as if, now all of a sudden our government right now is actually talking about China. Pakistan is the Israel of America. Pakistan is the Israel of China. He literally said it. First day in that office, this guy is not even supposed to be, holding any office because he's the interim prime minister, right? He's here to just get the elections done. The first thing he comes in and says officially that, oh yeah, we know we are the Israel of China. So, because what Israel is for America, Pakistan is for China. And I'm like, okay, yeah, well, then you should have done whatever China was requiring for the CPAC to happen, right? But we didn't. We stopped it because, Saudi Arabia actually asked us not to because of American, conflict here. And now the first thing that ever happened after the Palestine thing happened on the 9th of October, Pakistani government goes to America. Our establishment is actually, talking about what to do from America. I mean, that's the last person you want to talk about. A Muslim leader has to actually talk about how to get Muslims together. Or we have a very, very strong alliance with China and Russia. So that should have been your first go-to strategy as to, you know what, I'm going to have a lot of pressure from the Pakistani people. But that's least of his concern right now.
So if you were to ask, like, for example, if you were to do like a survey or something, right? Who would people sympathize or, more
Sympathize.
with?
They would never sympathize with America. Nobody in the world would sympathize with America. Just the fact that they're self-sustaining.
If it was a choice of America versus Russia, who would they choose?
In Pakistan, it's 99% Russian.
Really?
Yeah, but they never go to Russia.
Yes.
Most of the Pakistan would die to go to America. Yeah. But when it comes down to a conflict, they'd be like, you know what?
That's a very interesting. How about the same thing with China, America or China?
No, there's no question. China is something that's our first love.
Really, bro?
Yeah, but we'd never like the Chinese. We just like the country China. We'd never go there. But yeah. It's like we're trained into thinking that China is.
Is that something that is, like you say, you trained into it? So is that something within the blood of the Pakistanis, like
culturally, not religiously?
Thing,
yeah. Religiously, we know what's going on in Uyghur Muslims. Every Muslim in Pakistan, conscious Muslim, would be like, why? And no government talks about it. People who love. The political leaders, the most beloved of the leaders, they go to China and they never talk about Uyghur. Actually, sometimes when Nawaz Sharif was asked or Imran Khan, they're people's choices, these two. They're like, yeah, we talked about it behind closed doors. They're never going to answer it. I mean, it's like they have actually the Chinese guts to shun that question from a local Pakistani. And the local Pakistani wouldn't really ask the second follow-up question. Because they were like, yeah, okay, it's China. So, it's like for the religious youth, religious people, conscious Muslims are slapping around their leaders about why are you just so quiet about Uyghur Muslims? It's like, that's a litmus test. That's your classic litmus test.
Kashmir as well? I mean, that's another thing.
Kashmir is a complicated issue for the fact that local Kashmiris, they have a...
You talk about local Kashmiris in Hazard Kashmir.
No. They have no choice but to be pro-Pakistan. They're literally in Pakistan. I mean, you cannot tell whether you're in Kashmir or Pakistan when you're in, because that's like any other city in Pakistan.
Sure.
But I'm talking about the place where Indians are occupying.
Okay,
Kashmir,
sure.
That local Kashmiri has this more of a split. And even in, I was speaking in LSE right now, 2-3 days ago, London School of Economics.
Yeah, sure.
And this guy was, this is a classic Kashmiri response that I asked you, where are you from? And are you from Pakistan or India? Because you guys are here. Because it's not like a public event, it's a closed LSE event. And this guy is like, I'm from Pakistan. And this girl is, I'm from Palestine. And since they know I'm a Pakistani, so this guy comes in like, oh, I'm from Kashmir. And I'm like, India or Pakistan? It's like, no, I'm from Kashmir. Okay, and I said, well, what's the color of your passport? It's like, why do you have to ask me this question? I said, because you know the answer. He said, okay, it's red. I said, so why didn't you say you're in India? It's like, why do you have to just pump up this independent body? But I get it. They have this thing going on. So there is a problem inside Kashmir that Pakistanis, as Muslims, whenever, there's a bigger movement towards, you might have noticed that most of the Muslim scholarship around the Arabian world as well, when they say Palestine, they don't just say Kashmir right as a follow-up. Because everyone kind of has this feeling that it's more of a political thing than a religious thing. Even though a Muslim man as an individual, I know it's a religious thing, because any human being would have been, suppressed like this is a religious thing, let alone a Muslim in Kashmir. South Africa was a Muslim thing. We should have gone to South Africa against apartheid, but Jews did, and they actually followed the Torah. We didn't follow the Quran, When Allah said, "No, malakum la tuqatiluna fi sabilillah, wal mustadafina min ar-rijali wan nisa," didn't say min al-muslimina wal muslimat,
So it's all about, when Muslim actually knows that there is a human being in trouble, it's a Muslim thing to go and save him. So Kashmir is as Muslim a problem as anything else.
Yes, it is.
But if the locals actually, endorse this as well, and all of a sudden, as soon as Muslim help of any sort, political, apolitical, jihadi, a-jihadi, personal, a-personal comes in, all of a sudden we see 50-50. We don't want your help, okay? It's none of your business sort of a thing. That's why big scholarship in Pakistan, Muslim scholarship, they don't really consider Kashmir as a Muslim problem. It's like, they made it a political problem. It's more of a territorial dispute than anything else.
Really?
And I'm not saying I believe that.
Yeah.
Because I just told you South Africa was a Muslim problem.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I'm saying? But, it's pretty, hard to help somebody who's pushing you away while you're helping them.
I see what you mean. But I do get we see a lot of videos in Kashmir of people that really ask.
Oh, no doubt. As I said, I think it's a Muslim problem.
Yes.
I personally believe it's a. I mean, it's hard to, you're trying to save a drowning man who's trying to push you back in, pull you into it.
But why do you feel like that? Why do you feel that's happening, that they're trying to push you back in?
Well, because that's where it becomes political. Because the locals, a lot of years been spent training the locals that we do not want to become a dependent entity of either India or Pakistan, right? That should have been your step one, to become a dependent entity of somewhere. And even if you are going to be dependent on a Muslim, even if it's a corrupt Muslim nation like Pakistan, you still would not have been raped and suppressed and killed and butchered. No one is getting raped or butchered or killed in Azad Kashmir, right? I mean, this is a Muslim duty to do for all the Muslim leaders there. That we are in some sort of a trouble. Our women are in trouble. Our kids are in trouble. Our deen is in trouble. Let's just get out of this little commotion that is going on on the street, whether we have to color the streets green or red for India or Pakistan. Let's just get out of this constant torture of getting raped and getting killed, literally killed. But they didn't. Somehow it's a mixed feeling. Somebody gave them that unless we're independent of Pakistan.
Do you think if we did a survey in so-called
so many surveys,
occupied Kashmir, that the majority of people would say they want independence and they don't want the Pakistani help? Or
see, that's a secondary question in my opinion. Would you want to get raped or not? Should there be a threat of being raped or killed or not? That should have been the first survey.
No, but I'm sure they would say that we don't want to.
Yeah, of course. That's 100%.
Of course,
So any solution, any port in a storm, right? Any port in a storm. Rather than I want my kind of port unless I get to, mainland Miami. I'm not gonna, come out of the storm. That's not how it's supposed to work. It's an Islamic duty to come out of the storm, save your kids. And I know the kind of problems they could have been rationalized into that. Under Pakistan, you're not gonna get your own real sovereignty or liberty. Okay, smaller problem right now. Your house is on fire right now. Kids are burning. This is why I'm saying it's an Islamic problem. But
do you think the Pakistani people would want to go to war with India over this issue? Or?
People? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, see, there's a split of Pakistan. Every country has. I'm sure Egypt and Yemen. Most of the people are religious in Pakistan.
Yeah.
A bigger survey recently done. Most of the Muslims wanted an Islamic system.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not like liberal.
A lot of the Pew surveys have already kind of seen that Pakistan is quite high on that.
pretty, and you'll be amazed as to how proud I am as to what kind of hope I get when you see university youth and campuses discussing Islam, discussing Hadith, and discussing legislations regarding Islam and Sharia. That's never been the case. Actually, we were the most liberal of all the countries of Muslims in the first 10 years of independence. And Jackie Kennedy used to be a girlfriend of our own president in Pakistan. It's that liberal. And having a little bit of a shawl on your head was like a Muslim thing. And now youth is literally jumping into movement for Islamic thinking and debating, and that's why I want you here. Because debates are opening.
Yeah.
Like heated live debates with serious argumentation. I mean, people do homework before they come in, and they're really making clusters. And there's this There's electricity flowing all over the place.
I want to ask you about that, more about the social aspect, but one more question about the separatism or the kind of like political landscape, just so I can understand as well. So we spoke about a little bit about Kashmir. There are other provinces in Pakistan. For those who don't know Pakistan, I don't know how many states is it. There's many
4 provinces.
Four provinces, right?
Yeah.
Other than Kashmir, so you've got, like, for example, Baluchistan.
Yeah.
Where the problem is now with Iran, that took place, a huge province in terms of geographic size. There's also discussion about independence for that region. What do you make of these kinds of discussions? What do you think the Pakistani opinions are on that?
I think it's not just the Pakistani opinion. Any common sense thing would have done the math on this, that, more Indian interests are, because, India and Pakistan are just, you cannot talk about Pakistan without India or India without Pakistan.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem. Instead, it should have been like...
Could it be said that India is like the Israel for the Palestinians?
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. India is like the Israel. Actually, on the contrary, you'd be like how Pakistan is the Israel for, in their opinion. In their opinion, Pakistan, it's like a tiny little country, but we are the Israel for Indians.
Yes.
And we're trained into it.
Yeah.
I mean, as liberal as a Pakistani would get, if India strikes the borders of Pakistan, naked women dancing from their parties would come and fight India.
Is
that bad?
Is it that bad? Yeah.
I mean, that's how it's a totally different religion. When it comes down to India, it's like,
So how do you guys have relationships with Indian Muslims?
We love the Indian Muslims.
Is that complicated?
No, religious Muslims love the Indian Muslims. Well, but, because it's common sense. And we know what Indian Muslims are going through. And most of them actually admit to it. Some of them don't because they're afraid. And I have this big movement called IMS, Islamic Messaging System. We're connecting 2 billion people together. That's why I wanted to meet you so bad. Coming together. And not just on social media, but, making physical clusters and, trying to do real things together. And IMS, when Indians jumped in, they started getting calls from the local police and, politicians that, why are you getting the 92 number? 92 is the Pakistan number. And they're actually being interrogated right now. It's that bad. So when you talk about Balochistan, we know. Yeah. We know ISI is in India. That's their job to be. And we know RAW is in Balochistan. That's their job. It's a thing. They would not be doing their job right if they're not in Balochistan. So it's a pretty gruesome picture from the last few years.
So you think it would serve the interests of the Indians if they were to become, say, for example, if they was to become an independent region?
It would serve the interests of Indians if anything goes wrong in Pakistan. That's how, the wiring is done of the two countries. This is not a coincidence that Pakistan is so, when you think of Pakistan as, because you're not a Pakistani, you think Pakistan, you think Pakistan army.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I don't think Egyptian army is something like Egypt, even though
maybe
it is literally. No, I should. But it is that sort of an inevitability, and it's not just India, but most of it has been India, because of which we've been, any child goes through any kind of schooling in Pakistan, he'd be, emotionally wired into this concept, and that's why India-Pakistan games. Cricket, the sport?
I've seen it. I don't watch it.
In the Guinness Book, most amount of people that ever saw any game was India-Pakistan.
Really?
Yeah. Like literally
more
a billion.
Than the World Cup?
Forget soccer.
No, you're kidding me.
You do the math, man. That's the biggest. That's what I'm saying. That is literally the case.
Because of the size of the populations, maybe.
It's not. Yeah, that is primarily but the cause of those numbers actually come from this history. This history is like, there's nothing like it on the planet. Yeah. Israel, Palestine, not close.
But in terms of numbers, this is much bigger, isn't it?
Not just numbers. Some Palestinians would let go of some Jews, I'm telling you. Pakistanis and Indians are not going to let go of anything.
Okay, so let me tell you now. Let's move on to Pakistan a little bit more in terms of the collective consciousness. And you were talking about the kind of like the spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
We're now living in the age of distraction. Yeah. The age of distraction, the age of addiction. You are a psychologist.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you, a Muslim psychologist or a Muslim speaker and a psychologist, deal with the current, like how you've become very popular because of this. You're speaking in modern terms about how to deal with the modern issues.
Yeah.
So first of all, what do you see as the main challenges in terms of this theme of addiction and distraction? And then what are some of the main solutions?
Okay, the solution is lying inside the problem here.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
or the other way around as well.
Okay.
But since we're talking about Islam, and it actually, see, there is a certain dopaminergic value inside the word charisma.
Sure.
Okay, and that's what makes you addicted to a person or a video. In this case, when you're on YouTube, people only listen to you if you're making not just some sense. Anybody would make sense, but you're putting that certain element of eloquence and the sense of timing of how to actually place an argument at the time when it's going to matter the most for the listener as to, oh my God, you know what? The way he said it, at the time he said whatever he said, matters more than the homework that you did. Of course, the homework is a given. So if Zakir Naik, you know Zakir Naik?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Zakir Naik is dopamine value is his memory.
Yes.
Even though any scholar would know the references he's doing, but the way he's narrating it at the time where the enemy is a non-Muslim, no video of Zakir Naik would go viral if the other party was a Muslim.
It's very powerful you say that. Actually, you might be surprised to know this, but I actually came across a peer-reviewed academic piece about Zakir Naik, written by some academics. I think they were non-Muslim in Germany. And they were saying something quite similar to what you're saying, because they were trying to figure out the phenomena of Zakir Naik.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the article, but it can be found online. But they were effectively saying, look, Zakir Naik, clearly his impact has been disproportionate. It's massive in terms of, obviously, in India and all over the world, actually became a very big international figure. And part of the reason why, they say, is because of his public speaking ability. The way he actually comes across with those references.
But there's a science to it.
Go on, tell me.
Because they're talking about the same phenomena.
Sure.
But they're not splitting it into, the structure.
So you're interpreting it in a little bit different way now.
Oh, yeah. I'm talking about pure physiological science here.
Go on, tell me more.
So imagine a machine gun.
Okay. We've been talking about bombs and machine guns. I mean, what kind of...
Imagine a computer. Okay. No, it's not going to have the same dopamine.
Yeah.
See, there's a mechanical thing.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a gun, it's shooting something at the time where you can see the whole science behind how technical it is for you to not even fathom how it works. All of a sudden it becomes overwhelming.
Sure.
Right? That's dopamine.
Okay.
Something that you can't even achieve, and this guy is achieving so easily. But you know the utility of it.
Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, right?
Yeah, it's a neurotransmitter.
Sure.
It's a classic steroid. It's something. Okay, let me just tell you how dopamine works.
6 neurotransmitters.
5.
Dopamine. Is it 5?
No, but the dopamine has 5 centers.
Oh, sure.
There are way more than 6.
Neurotransmitters.
They're the big 6.
Okay, sure.
So that's why. But dopamine is something that gives you the kick, that gives you that sense of achievement, that gives you a sense of fascination, and most of all, that fulfills the curiosity. See, all of them combine in people like Zakir Naik. Okay, now, it only matters if you have that sense of achievement.
It looks like it's combining yourself as well a little bit, huh?
No, but I know how it works.
Yeah.
I know how it works. You know, everybody fell for the charisma of Zakir Naik.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, if it were not a Hindu on the other side, Zakir Naik would not have been Zakir Naik, because whatever he was doing was awesome. But since it mattered for a Muslim that the other party was a Hindu,
yes,
even though he was not even 1%
you're absolutely right. I think that's the case with most of the heroes of Islamic history. Salah ad-Din, and then you have Richard the Lion.
If it were not the Christians, Salahuddin would not have been Salahuddin.
Exactly right.
You know what I'm saying? So, or if the Christians were not so well equipped. You know what I'm saying?
Hostile even.
Yeah. Well equipped mostly, because hostile could be a militia.
Sure.
But the whole English, campaign was being run here,
Sure.
or the European for that matter.
Sure.
In Zakir Naik the more vile the Hindu is going to be on the other side, the more dopamine is going to be released in the Muslim mind, and someone's going to be, and that's what's going on in your videos.
Yes.
Anybody who's going to come in, try and debate with you.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I have noticed that. Yeah.
So I'm thinking you might want to even stage some stuff for some. I'll tell you, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a service to Islam. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Without letting anybody know. You need
we're
to.
telling everyone now.
No, it's still going to work. That's the power of dopamine.
No, but let me tell you something about that, right? Because I'll be honest, a part of it, you're talking about dopamine from the end user. I want dopamine for myself.
No, but that would be riyah then.
No, I get you. But even as not as a worship matter, as a sense of authenticity, I always like to test myself.
You have authenticity. Dopamine is not. That is not dopaminergic. Authenticity is serotonergic.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
see, the hierarchy of competence is not dopaminergic. And as soon as you put hierarchy of competence in play, that's serotonin.
Really?
And the more authentic you are, the more oblivious you are as to who's on top of you on the hierarchy, right? Because authenticity is irrelevant of comparison. You can only, authenticity is absolute, it's not relative.
And sorry to ask, but this might be obvious to some of the viewers, but what is the main difference in the way serotonin works and the way dopamine works?
Serotonin is, so, okay, this is a little big of a discussion. Let me just...
Because, I mean, in terms of antidepressants, sometimes you get like these kind of...
Yeah, well, depression is falling from the hierarchy, right?
Sure.
If you're falling down the hierarchy, they're going to stick you up with an SSRI.
Yeah, SSRI, right?
Yeah.
Which is serotonin.
Serotonin inhibitor.
Yeah.
Well, reuptake inhibitor.
Yeah.
SSRI is selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor.
Yeah.
Because when the serotonin goes into a receptor, it has to reuptake it.
Sure.
But it stops the reuptake so that you can keep that serotonin.
Okay.
Okay. So that's classic body mechanism.
Dopamine is a little bit more. Is it a little bit more? Is it more fast acting?
No, well, serotonin would be faster in action, but dopamine would be. It has more variety of compartments to act upon.
Okay.
Serotonin only acts in one thing.
Okay.
Okay. Well, so your sense of achievement is not serotonergic. Okay. You achieve something. If you complete a process, that's dopamine. You know, if you have to service your car, once you service your car, you're going to get dopamine.
Okay.
Okay. So if you had to complete this video, as soon as the video is complete, dopamine. You're going to get a good comment, dopamine. Because that's not sense of achievement. That's a sense of recognition. That's a totally different center of dopamine. There are 5 centers of dopamine. Okay. So different centers, different mechanism. Sense of completion, dopamine. Sense of achievement, dopamine. Sense of recognition,
serotonin?
credit. Serotonin is your alignment in the hierarchy of,
So is that linked to fulfillment?
fulfillment, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a...
Or a sense of achievement?
Yeah, well, fulfillment could come from anything. Contentment.
Contentment, okay.
Yeah. That, I am content with whatever I got.
Because now in the antidepressant world, in the pharmaceutical industry, it's more SSRIs that become popular, isn't it?
Not just popular, they're actually making sure that you are addicted to SSRIs. Okay, see, you're going to dilate the whole center mechanism. The 2 neurons talking. Okay, this is a receptor on the neuron. The bigger the neuron, the center is, the more it's going to require. With more SSRI externally induced, you're going to need more. Next time you're actually going to go into depression, right?
That's true.
And that next SSRI is going to be not enough. So you're going to have more. It's just like smokers. Once you
The threshold is increased.
Yeah, well, that's called dilation. So from the last few generations, you can see, and they've measured it, your dopamine levels are gone million times more, literally.
Because of the screens and because of all this addictions.
Yeah, because of, lack of effort, more convenience. More convenience is dopaminergic.
This is important. I think a lot of people now are suffering now that, like, mental health has become a thing, especially in the UK and definitely in the West, definitely probably in the world. I mean, because of this kind of thing. So now, someone that's overusing the screen, someone that's watching a lot of television, someone that's watching movies and series, someone that's smoking, someone that's eating fast food. And we all do some of that stuff.
Cars,
Fast cars,
microwaves, fridge, your classic, everything that is reducing effort.
Yeah, and we all do some of that stuff. Like everyone's going to go on Twitter and stuff. It's very difficult to avoid all of it.
Yeah.
What's some practical advice that you can give to people that are actually living this kind of life?
Sira. That's it. You start walking to your wherever work, because people used to walk way more than where you live and work right now.
Yeah.
And so it's possible. It's been possible for thousands and thousands of years. Now all of a sudden we've a natural disposition that it's not even possible from North London to East London. It was way more possible for way longer distances in the same 24-hour cycle.
So is it walking in particular or any kind of exercise?
No, I'm talking about washing your clothes, to ironing your clothes, to cooking.
Just being more hands-on.
More organic, that's the word. Raising pets, having animals. Because that's the natural speed of things.
Sure, okay.
The natural speed of things is organic. If you're going to put yourself into natural speed of things, it's literally the rehabilitation of dopamine.
Because I feel like sometimes when I go to a place and it's empty and it's derelict or it's desolate and I'm there by myself, I actually feel almost a sense of anxiety, bro, because I feel like I'm usually losing a fast life.
In Pakistan, I've done experiments with school kids.
Really?
With the white rooms, nothing in there, just a little seat and a table and a book. They never read the book.
Really?
first, that is the activity, and we're actually monitoring them with mothers standing outside because they've got ADHD and whatever kind of problems they're going through, and I'm like, just put him in a zero room. It's called a zero activity room. He's got nothing, no sharp, instruments or pencils or anything. It's just a bathroom. He has to spend 2 hours only, and it's well heated, well maintained. If it's too cold, it's heated. If it's too hot, it's well air conditioned.
And you talk about Sirah. This is exactly what the Prophet did in the cave.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, Sirah.
Yes.
I didn't say Sunnah, I said Sirah. You got to go through all of those. So it's and mommies start crying outside watching their CCTV cameras of their kids.
Why? Because they can't fathom why they can't handle.
No,
non-activity.
kids are not even doing anything. Most of the kids are going to go through these little
So what do
jitters.
they do? Go sleep, or what do they do?
Most of the time they do go to sleep.
Really?
They just start walking. They just start touching the floor. Start painting with their nails on the wall, and the job is to do nothing.
How old are these kids?
8, 9, 10.
Oh, really?
And even sometimes even less.
But so how do you deal with this? I mean, how this is the problem here. We've got an addiction problem. We've got things are too fast. Clearly, the screens are taking over our lives. Clearly, there's an issue here. So how do you resolve this issue?
I think there's still a lot more opportunity. See, it's not about the things that are getting us addicted. It's about the way we look at these things as, we've actually reduced ourselves so much so that these things have gone big on us.
Yeah.
See, now, I can't even think about living without a cell phone. Even though the Prophet said that you are the God of your things. They are not the God of you. You made them. They didn't make you. So I can't even...
When you say the God, you mean obviously the owner, the possessor, because someone's...
Yeah, but that's the hadith.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course, we all know it. So you cannot... Because if I cannot live without this, it's literally, it's not addiction, it's worshiping. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is as much of a taqwa I have that I cannot, go without you. I'm a nothing.
Toilet. You can't
I'm a nothing without you.
Nothing.
So you got to have a very strong philosophy to control yourself. That this is not who I am.
So how do you because knowing all this information, what's your routine with your phone, for example?
Okay, I got a lot more things than just the phone as a problem right now because of my thing. So inevitably, this is not my most important thing. Otherwise, I'm not doing it consciously. But you got to do it consciously. And the more I, go organic, I'm talking about those 24-hour cycles. And the fact that I'm placed into 4 different countries, so I'm awake.
Oh, you have to be on the plane for that time.
Not just that, but most of my clientele is in America, which is nighttime in Pakistan. So I'm most of the time, because I'm the worst example for establishing an organic routine. Now, I'm not talking about things here. I'm talking about my routines, because your diet, your sleep routine, you better be asleep, because this is an HPA dialogue. Allah has designed this machine so that it can clean itself, just like a coffee machine. Our body cleans its own heart with its own cortisol every night. If you're asleep in time. If you're not asleep, it's not going to happen. Just like that, dopamine also is cleanable. It is going to retract into its natural size of your centers if you put enough organic time into it. If you are actually running, if you're actually physically active.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. I feel like doing a lot of, when I up my exercise, I feel so much better in the week.
Yeah, but that's just one of those things which is going to become a dopaminergic reaction. If you go to the gym, you're just going to the gym so that you can actually feel good. Even though, other than the gym, you're getting way more dopamine, because now that you've gone to the gym for an hour, you're gonna do everything else that is against going to the gym.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Those 22 hours.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So the Prophet said, do something which is even little, but it's consistent. Okay, so you need to have a 24 or 12-hour, wherever you're awake fully, you have to have smaller things which are organically placed. Okay,
So
plant trees.
all right, sure.
Yeah, go green, walk. Again, do your own stuff, your own self. Use less machine, become less dependent on machines by design. Not only for the sake of, look at my stomach is telling me right now or what I have to eat right now. See, I'm actually growling right now. Your body is going to tell you yourself whether you got to sleep, you got to wake up, we are actually using machines to wake up. Even the body is designed to tell us when to wake up.
Yeah.
If the child is, I'm going to talk to you mommies right now. If your child is sleepy, he's not going to be, telling you of how to help him go to sleep. His body is going to make him go to sleep. If a child is not sleepy, you cannot slap him into sleeping. Most mothers do that.
Yeah.
Just like that, your body is going to tell you whether you're ill, you have a fever, you're curious, you're happy, you're sad. We're actually designing these things so that they can actually start dictating every single action that we're going to make.
I was going to ask you a question. I mean, we talk about addictions. One of those addictions, which unfortunately even pervade our Muslim countries, is pornography addiction. Now, how do we deal with that? Because that's an addiction which I was actually listening to. I'm sure you've heard Andrew Huberman. He also does a lot of work on like dopamine and stuff like that. And I heard him have a conversation with somebody. I don't know who he was speaking to, but it's a podcast like the one we're having right now. And there was an interesting point he made, which is that when you are addicted to pornography, he was making the point that it actually makes you voyeur. I mean, he didn't put it in these terms, but it makes you voyeuristic in the sense that you become aroused based on the third-person experience of looking at pornography, rather than being aroused because of the first-person experience of actually getting involved in sexual activity. So it messes up the wiring in the brain somehow. Obviously, this is putting it colloquially. The question is, someone is now addicted, whether they are married or have a sexual partner or not, to pornography. What would be, first of all, how do you diagnose this? And what are the practical solutions to be able to deal with this?
Okay, well, there are two things. He missed out on one thing, though.
Sure.
Because he got one thing totally right. You're not in control of the action when you're looking at, this sort of an act. Video is not going to put you in control. That means you would require less control in your real life, okay? And you would want that kind of script to control your own personal sexual life with your partner, with your wife. That really changes things. That's what he meant when he said it's changing the wiring of the brain. Secondly, it objectifies the very action and the subject and the object. It actually objectifies the whole, routine, which again is going to trigger it's an atypical dopamine cycle. Okay. That means you're going to have to recreate all of that with your wife or husband if you are addicted to pornography. And unless you recreate that and top it, because the one time you're going to recreate that, that's going to get the dopamine center.
But how would you recreate it? Would they watch it together, or how?
No. Whatever any one of them has seen at any kind of scene, they're going to have to recreate it. But they're going to get that dopamine from that scene. Now they're not going to get the same dopamine from that scene. Now they have to top it up.
So they'll create fantasies in the bedroom.
Not just that, but the more extreme the fantasy, the more dopamine.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So whatever kind of pornography they're going
to... sorry to cut you off. I was reading a book. Don't ask me why, but there was a book that was written by this guy called Justin Lemiller, and it's called "Tell Me What You Want." And in that book, he done it's a survey of 4,000 or 3,000 people in America, and he was asking them what their sexual fantasies are. And they put, like you mentioned, like a lot of the stuff would be considered to be completely atypical. Sorry to say, threesomes and incestuous and...
Not just that, but, go gruesome, that's the word.
BDSM was huge on the list. Yeah.
And not... but then it'll... Because there's so much that a woman or a man can do. So they'll have to come up with some techniques to actually, again, topping it up.
Wow.
Just like a smoker is going to go into marijuana, marijuana is going to go into coke, coke is going to go into heroin, and heroin is going to overdose you.
It's the same thing, right?
Literally. The problem with pornography would be that there's this thing in the brain called the VTA. That's the central area around which the limbic system is placed. And there's this protein precipitant called the delta phos B.
Okay.
Once it precipitates there, you cannot get it out.
Sure.
Parkinson actually, people with Parkinson are going to go through the same thing. But the fact that, even if you have to get that is purely dopamine, by the way. So if you have to go and get delta phos B out of the whole cycle, you need an antagonist to actually work the exact opposite cycle of dopamine. Once this protein precipitates, you're not going to, this is as fatal as it gets in terms of these sort of, in this realm. You're permanently addicted to it. In other words, it is going to make you as much of an impotent person, even though you're not going to be impotent, but nothing's going to arouse you, because even if it does, you'll have to actually therapeutically arouse yourself. And hence, those psychologists are going to keep telling these couples to pretend that he's somebody else, and go into role play that, or wear masks or whatever. They're going to come up with all sorts of things. But there's a limit to how many masks a man can wear, or a woman can be called.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? So these lists are going to wear out, and they're going to run out of pretensions and scenarios and role plays. And the fact that if I am an actor by design, then imagine the kind of low self-esteem a person has that his wife is pretending that I'm somebody else. Look at the damage from the other angle. That if my wife has to pretend that I'm some other man, that's actually shaking the very core of my actual esteem and my belief. As a Muslim, I can't even think about these things, right? So that's why Muslims can't. I'm assuming Muslims would never be able to think about role plays. It's like, this is as...
You'd be surprised. Muslims do all kinds of things.
Well, then they better start replaying this video all over.
I even came across scholarly words, classical scholar positions that I'm not going to go into great details, but books have been written about this, basically talking about what hukum these kinds of things have. If you're thinking about
I'll
it,
tell you, it's for the boys only. Girls are going to be really reactive to this video, this part of the video, so skip it. But even if boys are actually pretending that she's someone else, it's not as hurting or hurtful in chemistry than if a girl is doing it. Because if a girl is doing that, then you're actually opening a lot more doors to a lot or bigger problems. And now I'm not going to trigger on purpose the theological doctrine here.
Sure.
But because every Muslim can do the math and why it's going to be devastating. Anybody who's even read anything. But as a man, and you need to understand that women's psychology doesn't work like men's psychology. Women's dopamine cycles are not about novelty. Man's dopamine cycle is novelty. Every
so
day.
what was it for the woman then?
Longevity. If it is not the same guy forever, it's not dopaminergic for a woman. You know what I'm saying? Hence, one husband for the wife in Jannah. And he's not going to be able to divorce you. That's longevity. But for the man, novelty is dopaminergic. Actually, nothing compares to novelty when it comes down to dopamine for a man's psychology. I mean, so that's why if men are pretending, well, I get it. But if women are pretending that, you're not the husband, then you got a bigger problem than just porn addiction, buddy. A way bigger problem.
Yeah. Also, that's the problem. What's the solution?
Again, dopamine works in the same ways. So dopamine retardation, the dilation, has to be retarded, shrunk back into its original size. And it's not about the dilation, it's about the triggers as well. So you need to take longer breaks, and totally different level of, rehabilitation of dopamine. For example, in this case, I would use the verse of the Quran, just like if there is infidelity. I would use the same verse. Just got to separate, try and take a longer break, go way more deeper into spirituality, come up with, reconstructing yourself, and then come back to your husband or to that wife who's pretending you're somebody else, buddy. This is a problem. I mean, this is a problem. Yeah. So I'm thinking the therapy is in that verse, because that verse is at that time, and you see any kind of, I mean, you can treat it as a philosophical redundant. Why? I mean, we're laughing. It's not funny.
Yeah.
And it's devastating for a man. I mean, God forbid, oh my God, na'udhu billah, if, imagine, forget physiology right now, forget physiology. Talk about psychology right now. Your self-esteem is, there is no self-esteem. I mean, imagine if a woman is flirting with somebody.
Worse.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, what else is there? I mean, there is no bigger emergency, buddy. You're done. I mean, you're done way before and this is happening.
I'm wondering who you're who you're addressing at this point.
I swear to you, are you the one who came up with this caricature, man?
Yeah, no, sure. No, but it is a thing. I mean, people fantasize all the time.
People do. And I said, boys will be boys. But if your woman is doing that, your woman already knows you're not a man. Okay? It's not your woman, buddy. I mean, I know we got a document for it. You have a document for it. I mean, that's all you got. You know, you can wave around your, your marital certificate. I mean, it's not rocket science, right? I mean, it's like common sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take a Muslim to know that. Even non-Muslims like, yeah, dude, this dude's right, man. Samantha is saying, yeah, I know what he's talking about. We're not talking about Zulekha or Khadijas. Even Samantha's like, yeah, this dude's not a man.
So the solution is, you said, retardation.
Yep.
So is something like having a break from all of it?
Well, no. A break from general concepts of life, which means, separate yourself. And you got to have two parties serious about this concept that, you know what, this is a problem. I mean, this is, on paper, it's not going to look like a problem. So you got to really have a consent that, yeah, you know what, I can't. And any real man would be talking to a woman that, you know what, this is not on. I mean, it's not that I want to punish you or anything. I want to reconstruct myself inside, or let's just, call it quits. Because you need to be with the woman who thinks you're her man. Yeah. It's not just hearing the wrong name at the wrong time, but it's about, it's way more than that.
But in general, though, and pornography addiction in general.
Delta Phos B. Look it up, everybody. Look Delta Phos B. VTA. You'll find out how big of a physical ailment this is.
Okay, so that in terms of screen
and
use.
for men, let me just scare you out.
Sure.
Boys, impotence. Literally, you're calling for impotence, okay? Way earlier than you can possibly come. Because that protein is going to accumulate, and it's not about the fact that you're physically impotent. Your psychology is not going to let you get into the game.
What erectile dysfunction?
Well, that would be the symptom. The cause would be, because when you go for ED to any doctor, he's not going to look into your psychology.
How long does it take for someone to get to that level?
Really, with more pornography, sooner, more videos, you're asking for it. I'm talking about decades earlier than it's supposed to happen.
Is it?
Yeah, literally. I'm talking about 40s and 50s men going down, literally.
Really, bro?
Yeah. Still, I'm talking about, just pornography. Because there are a lot of other things that actually, you're living through because of, your own routines of pornography. And plus, you know what, this is why I'm telling you, Islam is such an amazing solution. There's so many things which are prohibited just for the sake of not even going into the grays. I mean, this is as black as it gets. We're not even supposed to enter the grays. And that actually, rekindles everyday relationships with, husband and wife. It's pretty organic. So now with new and improved creativity of the pornographers, they're going into, you'll be amazed as to, what kind of reports we get.
So compare pornography with drugs. Like what kind of level it would be on?
Different. We're talking about, there is no drug that is, because drugs are quick action and they're going to, for example, let's just take cocaine.
Sure.
No, let's just take meth. It's got more dopamine than coke.
Does it?
Yeah, but the fact is...
But most people know what cocaine is. Okay, meth is fine, because people know what that is as well.
Well, there's not going to be much people in coke when they're going to be listening to this kind of podcast, but most of them are going to be meth.
Sure, fine.
Meth accustomed or meth aware. So meth is way more deadly than cocaine, medically speaking. It's got a lot more dopamine. It's more acute. It's quick action.
What about opium? Or opioids in general?
Opiates are dopaminergic, but let's just say marijuana, okay?
Fine.
Marijuana is not going to intoxicate you. So there's going to be a lot of scoff. I'm not going to say that because people are going to jump into marijuana because it doesn't really affect the general sense of judgment. But it is purely dopamine, and it It's got low dose, low potency in terms of the measure of dopamine. And I'm not a drug expert. Just talking about psychology here. But if you're not going to... Okay, let's just compare coke with meth and you'll find out what I'm talking about. Cocaine you can get out of. Meth you won't be able to get out of if you cross some certain thresholds.
Really?
Yeah.
Because there are like programs for people that meth.
No. You're not going to do meth once you're rehabilitated. But because of that dopamine dilation,
Oh, you mean
you're going to be into a lot of the things which are going to satisfy your dopamine needs. That's the
okay.
problem.
Okay.
Yeah, cocaine is slow action. So you're going to be living a regular life other than coke, other than your episodes of whenever you're doing coke, right? In meth, you're owning your 24 hours. That's why I'm saying it's quick action. It's a horizontal.
So compare that with pornography then. What's the comparison?
Well, pornography is about man or woman, right? Yeah. So you need to have a man or a woman. I'm talking about if you're a man, you need women.
Well, now there's people watch homosexual stuff as well.
Well,
that's one of the most popular categories.
again, the two genders are going to still remain as the two variables, right? Either man or man. Yeah. So 2 to the power of 2, right? For whatever LGBTQI, 2 to the power of whatever. But there's still going to be 2 sets of genitals, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, you cannot confuse that, and that's what should be one of the arguments for against LGBT. It's like, how do you set pornography as one of your case studies? You still need these 2 genders, right? So what I'm saying is, women are still going to be women, men are still going to be men. There's certain parts and certain curves of the man or the woman, and there's a research in that. Okay, and I'm not talking about pornography. Sex as a subject was well read, and it has been. Google it, read it, of what is the most attractive thing and why is it the most attractive thing for the opposite gender, or part of the body, starting from the eyes and to any kind of things. And you'll be amazed as to how men are more attracted towards non-sexual parts of a woman, and if they get too much exposure or too easy to access, they're not sexually attractive. That's the design of a human being.
It's true.
And that's dopamine, by the way.
If
there's no effort, there's no dopamine.
I remember one time, there's the carnival in there. We have something called the carnival, London Carnival.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
And sometimes I just happen to be in the area when they're doing it. It just happened. That's true, though. I just have to be in the area.
You're giving me too many cues about a lot of things, man.
And honestly, there was some of the women that actually, what they wear is they're effectively naked. I mean, I saw they were effectively naked. They were wearing to cover their nipples. They were wearing stickers, whatever they're called. But it was like mine. It was basically she was naked, but then it wasn't having a reaction on me. And I think it's the reason why you just mentioned this, because it was just too easy. It's too easy.
Yes.
It's too easy.
See, there's a sense of achievement.
Yes.
So hence, it's not dopamine there.
Yeah. It's too easy. I said, okay, well, this would, in other contexts, probably do something for me. But because you're just putting yourself like that without any...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it was too easy.
Okay. Well, that's not my general expertise about... But when you're talking about pornography, I'm telling you this right now, it's way more devastating for women than men.
Really?
Because they're dependent on those addicts. You know what I'm saying?
What do you mean?
Wives are dependent on husbands.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So if a guy is a patient, attendant is suffering for no reason, and that's a bigger problem for women, because they're not. You'll be amazed as to how big of a difference there is between men towards pornography versus men, and did I say men? Men and women. So women generally don't even have that sort of a, what's the word? They're not going to be affected to that level, assuming that the speed of pickup rate remains the same, because God knows if tomorrow more women are going to be into porn, the way things are going.
A lot of them are into it.
I'm sure they are. I'm sure, of course. That's the power of creativity behind this industry. I mean, they're really designing this industry, and you'll be amazed as to how much work it goes into this industry, way more than Hollywood or anything else, because they have very few variables to play, and we have way more situations to create. I mean, they want to design dopamine around it. They're designing dopaminergic processes without knowing the word.
budget for a porn movie is going to be considerably less than a budget for a film, so they can churn out a lot more.
Yeah, well,
scenarios and
that's why they're going to survive longer than Hollywood, but they're not going to survive as an individual filmmaker. The industry is going to survive, but it's not. So again, women are going to be suffering more than men in terms of no sin and twice the punishment. Men are going to know why they're actually suffering, and you'll be looking at men acting like literally dogs, literally, from, different women just because of the fact that there is a different face on that body. And that's going to cause novelty, the novelty effect.
We've seen dogs and stuff like that in some of the, I don't know.
No, I'm just talking about literally the animal.
No, some of them actually pretend to be dogs and stuff.
Okay, well, okay, but
Yes.
I'm talking metaphorically, because
Oh.
this guy will be demanding a new woman, literally. There's going to come a time when AI is going to be recreating a new woman, and so AI is not going to put an actual woman there. And that's not going to have that kind of dopamine. But that's what, what we're confused, we should know, that AI is not going to service you real women. Hence, that's not going to be the same dopamine. And you need real women because the conquest is dopamine. And you need to conquer the woman. That's real dopamine. As soon as you conquer the woman, that's the real game that only human beings organically play. When you actually, propose to a woman or a woman proposes to you, that's a conquest of a totally different nature. And that's an organic nature. That, what, this man is actually, given up all of his life for me, or a woman that, she's going to spend all of her life with me forever. That's actual conquest in that really real meaning of the word. And that's why it is such a big achievement to actually get married. Even though, in my hometown, you don't really have that conquest. Your parents do the job for you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they arranged it.
Now that, to be honest, nowadays they're using apps for exactly the same effect. They talk about arranged marriages in Pakistan, but they have arranged marriages here in the UK. All they do is they use Tinder to arrange it for them. They use AI to arrange it for them.
There
The
you
matchmaker
go.
is a machine.
That's not a conquest.
Yes, that's not a
Not
conquest.
at all. You need to propose to your own women. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something which is going to get you a lot more points on the leadership index in front of your own wives. Okay. And if they are proposing to you, it's okay, but they need to know why they're proposing to you.
That's right.
Rather than just looking at a picture and looking at your resume. It's not a job that you're applying for, man.
They can do what they like. I mean, that's so long as they're, they're proposing in the Islamic manner,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, I am for the women proposing to men.
Yeah, no
I mean,
problem
it's,
at all.
this is-
I mean, there's hadith in the Prophet, in Bukhari, a woman came to the Prophet, she said, هَلَّكَ بِحَاجَةٍ فَصَوَّبَ النَّظَرِ. She said, do you want anything? He looked at her and he said, and then he kept quiet. Because he, for whatever reason, but he kept quiet. So he didn't want to marry her. But so this, a lot of scholars say.
Prophet Sallam. Oh, okay. Because the hadith about Hazrat Abdullah, the father of Prophet Sallam, when he was about to go get married to Amina, there was this girl who just came out of the door because he knew him, and she's like, "I want to get married to you." And he said, since he was already going to get married to Amina, right? So
These ones are probably less likely to be authentic, but nevertheless.
no, it's not about proposal.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
about a totally different context.
Yeah.
The meaning is different.
Got you.
So when he came, next time he was walking and he saw the woman and he looked into the fact that whether she's going to propose now, because she was talking about it. And she said, "No, I don't see the same thing in you." He's so beautiful. It's like, it was, so I'm just, a totally different
it's
topic.
a good point. I was going to say to you, another thing now, so people want to live balanced lives. They want to have a good mix between mind, body, and soul. You deal with a lot of young people, men and women in Pakistan, and generally now I think you're becoming more and more of a figure internationally. Are there programs, because you've got clients and stuff, are there programs that you put your clients on in terms of your coaching program? What is a good all-rounded program that you would suggest to your clients or generally to the general public?
For the sake of what objective?
The sake of living, like you mentioned this term,
Oh,
organic life.
yeah. Most of my clients are parents. Actually, most of them, they come for, other than the business coaching, of course, they come to actually make sure their kids are, safe from this dopaminergic routine.
Sure.
The addiction, ADHD, OCD, depression. You'll be amazed as to kind of suicide rate in Pakistan is going through.
Really?
Youth. It's literally doubling every year. Like, no jokes, it's going crazy.
Yeah.
And those are the people who have everything. Like, they're the top 1% of the country and they're committing suicides in their teens and early 20s. So imagine what dopamine can do. Imagine what addiction can do. Imagine what getting everything can do.
So
The hardship was the actual design of development and production and growth and progress. We didn't get it. That was the God's design of making us reach.
And it's interesting because I think it was Arthur Schopenhauer, a very famous
Yeah.
philosopher, and he said something to the effect of that.
I know.
Humankind.
Actually, I did quote. That's what I quoted, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But he said something to the effect of like that mankind oscillates vicissitudes between like periods of extreme fear and periods of extreme boredom.
Yeah.
And it's because we're living in this kind of age of safety where we're not effectively engaging in the wars.
Yeah, so
That's where we have to try and stimulate ourselves with all this kind of this stuff.
we do. We actually tend to induce fear artificially.
Yes.
Just for the sake of satisfying that little core which actually lives in fear. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is beautiful. I mean, I'm not for our Schopenhauer per se.
Yeah.
But yeah, they understood the pattern. I mean, this is a natural pattern. Of course, we should be oblivious to the fear, but we can't. Nobody can actually get fear out. We have to conquer it, not eliminate it. We cannot eliminate it. But kids, well, anybody who is in the bigger cities of whatever country you're living in right now, they're exposed to that kind of luxury, which was not available not thousands of years, 50 years ago.
So what's a balanced program for you that you would recommend?
Go 100 years ago and try and go. See, the suburban lifestyle is the most devastating lifestyle right now because it's worse than downtown. There's a downtown in London?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What do you call it here? CBD?
Which what?
The downtown, where the corporate jobs, the apartment life, and you're going
Central London, yeah. Oh, the city.
The city, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we call it.
So when in downtown Toronto is a totally different lifestyle than let's just say Etobicoke and the GTA area, the Greater Toronto area. The suburban life is literally a representation of a self-created utopia about safety, security, quietness, nothing major going on, no extremes of any kind. Okay. Now you need some extreme of some kind.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
The guy who lives closest to the masjid
Yeah.
never makes it in time for the prayer.
Wow.
Okay. Now there's a design. Forget Schopenhauer. This is me talking. Okay. This is a Muslim.
Yeah.
We know a guy who lives closest to the school will never make it in time to the school because we need that sort of problem to create the dopamine cycle, to initiate the dopamine cycle, to solve the problem. If I do not have the problem, I will never create, because dopamine means the, what do you call it in Arabic? The tahrik. Okay? Dopamine is tahrik. Or the haraka. So if there is no dopamine, there is no movement. I won't even come out of the bed if I did not have the dopamine cycle running.
Sure.
There has to be some task bringing, enough, inviting some energy to start producing, some sort of dopamine. So like, dopamine is
That's
like
why
fuel.
people do martial arts.
Yeah. So the guy closest to the school is not going to make it in time for the school because he does not have that problem to solve.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
And since I need a problem to solve, I'm going to make it in time. The guy the farthest from the masjid is always going to make it in the first saf.
Interesting.
Because he's got a bigger problem to solve. He has a bigger sense of achievement. Okay? And there has to be that sense of achievement. If there's no villain, there is no hero. Okay? So we create our own villain. This suburban life is villainless. This regular life is problemless. Hence, we're talking about excessive dopamine for all the whole time in the podcast. But we need dopamine. We need dopamine organically. So we need those real problems coming in our way so that we can solve them and progress. That's a healthy brain.
So in your weekly program, you should have something like that. If you don't have that, you're gonna
exactly. You're killing your own self.
Wow.
With ease.
Wow.
Literally. No puns intended. You're killing yourself with ease because it's too easy of a life to live. You have to have problems. I suffer, therefore I am. Of course, that's not Schopenhauer. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that was good, though. I tell you what. I mean, I think a lot of people will benefit immensely. I want to ask you, if people want to listen to more of what you have to offer, where can they go and what can they do? I mean, you speak in Urdu fluently. Obviously, it's your first language. You'd think that English is your first language. You've spoken in great eloquence.
Yeah, well, I was raised in America, so that's why I can speak English. But yeah, I do not have. I think most of my programs are in Urdu, but I'm actually constantly going through English programming now. On
I think
we're on a UK tour. All of this is in English.
Yeah.
There's
going to be a surge of demand, I think, after this podcast.
Yeah, well, I would
because we've gotten the dopamine fix once. We need it again.
Yeah, I know.
You can't do this to us. I mean, we're already addicted.
Before we go into anything else, I really need to make a plea here
Sure.
to everybody who's listening, especially to hijab all the time, mashallah. I think the bigger dopamine that I have is, and every Muslim should have a dopaminergic map as to what he's trying to achieve. Okay.
Nice.
Since if dopamine is selfish, okay, I mean dopamine is not per se the motive or the big drive of your drive of the bigger energy.
Sure.
Because as soon as you're gonna get dopamine, if you're getting it for yourself, then you get dopamine.
Okay.
Your big brother or your own brother, your son getting anything is not gonna give you dopamine. You need to understand that. That's
Really?
yeah.
If I see my son achieve something, then
That's serotonin for you.
okay.
That's
fine.
not dopamine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because you're actually, this is a hierarchical thing. Dopamine only comes to you if you get it.
Okay.
That's the beauty of it. I mean, it makes you selfish. The more dopamine, the more selfish you are. Bigger problems in this planet are because of dopamine. Ironically, most Pakistanis are going to listen to this. They will know all of whatever I'm talking about because I'm actually known as dopamine.
Really?
Because I talk about it so much. Because I think this is the biggest problem in the world right now. You name a bigger war, from Vietnam to this Palestine war. What do you think? This is the Netanyahu's dopamine war. All he wants is to save his own seat for the next whatever election is going to come in. This is just dopamine. I mean, these guys are not people of purpose.
I think this guy's a psychopath.
No, he's not a people of purpose.
Yeah.
No, he's as psycho as anybody in India, Pakistan, or wherever. Dopamine makes you blind. Selfishness makes you blind. It lowers your IQ. Any child who's addicted, or if I'm going into some task, I will naturally lose the big picture. Dopamine makes you more focused, hence ADHD. Okay? Focus is too much on that one task, it makes you lose the bigger, the wisdom quotients go down, intelligence quotients go up, wisdom quotients go down. I'm going to be way more intelligent about things that I'm doing right now at that point in time. So if I'm actually, trying to find something in my glove compartment in the car, let's just say a nail clipper. I'm not even going to look for anything else other than a nail clipper, even though there's so many things that I can use to clip my own nails, or later on I need for that day. But since I'm only focused on one thing, it increases my focus so much that I'm going to be literally looking at anything which looks like a nail clipper. That's dopamine. Okay, so it increases the focus, but it loses the big picture perspective. You lose yourself in the map. That's what Netanyahu is going through as well, and I think that's the strength that we have to understand how human beings operate. And that is anybody's weakness, let alone his weakness. But of course, these people don't come alone. They come with a lot of advisors and consultants just so that they can, slap
They've all got their own dopamine systems.
Yeah. No, but Mossad has this amazing setup. I read about this 10, 15 years ago. Mossad actually, because of this, it's called the confirmation bias, because you get into this one belief so much that you forget about it. What's wrong with it? You can't critically analyze it. So they come up with this cycle of 11. Whenever they have to make a decision, they put that one guy who's going to oppose that decision. By job, by design, no matter what happens, he's going to oppose that decision. He's going to do all the homework to back up that argument, to oppose the consensus. That's his job.
We have a couple of those guys here in the Sapiens Institute as well.
Well, that's a totally different disorder. Your Muslim has it. But if he's not doing it under the Mossad technology or technique, that's just could be arrogance. Or could be that they're right and you're totally doing it.
Maybe that guy's me. Yeah, go on, you say.
What I'm saying is, but to break that dopamine cycle, they have this one guy. It's like, no matter what they're saying, and even if they're right, your job is to die proving them wrong. And that's an alarm. That's an alarm. That's a wake-up call. Actually, by the way, the great Arab-Israel war, they were notified by Mossad, even though everyone was giving them this intel that no, it's not going to happen. They've just, the whole preparation committee was being triggered by this one guy that, what, that's my job. And I know you've made a decision that, the Arabs are not coming in, but that's my job to make you get prepared. So they had that sort of a preparation that actually saved them. I mean, that's something which we should learn from. Again, we're twisting the tail a little too much. Let's just come back to simplicity. But my purpose is simple. There are about 4 million people in England, Muslims, about 1.5 million in Canada, and close to 2 in America, Muslims. There are 250 million in Pakistan, and there are about close to 200 million in India, Muslims. Okay, so you can see the map, and you can see effects of people like Muhammad Hijab, and people who are actually calling the shots on dopamine cycles of human beings, calling Muslims to some sort of a cause or a purpose, boys and girls. Now, unless we know the effects of you as hijab scientifically, and I need you to prosper in those, you know what I'm saying? So that you know what works and where it works, and make sure you become a lot more consistent and better so that these numbers start rising. And unless you put them into let's just say a 10-year plan of where you want these millions of people in 10 years, because they're not going to remain 20-year-olds in 10 years. They're going to come into an effective career life, whether we like it or not. They're going to have some sort of a job, which we naturally have to do because of whatever parenting that is being done, good or bad. They need to come from this capitalistic perspective to some sort of a power. And if we can connect that power in 10 years, even if 1% of these Muslim women and men at that time, mostly boys, that means وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ. That means a lot bigger force than any nuclear bomb that we have in Pakistan or wherever, because that's millions of people coming together. But we're not realizing how powerful you are, because we're not doing the science behind this. And if you,
How would one do the science behind this?
well, first of all, you should know you should read into what people are, really sticking to, rather than just, good comments or bad comments, critiques, or rather you look into the fact that which video had what kind of dopamine value at what point in time, which actually triggered a bigger response. You know what I'm saying? So if I look at a Hyde Park video and some atheist is debating with you, it's not going to create much dopamine unless he comes up with an argument nobody else has. That shouldn't go on your YouTube, you know what I'm saying? Because if you're actually consistently putting same sort of arguments on your YouTube video, because you have to put some video, because this is for learning. Everybody has to learn, because now everyone's going to watch every video. But that's going to reduce your dopamine value invariably. Okay? So you need to design some sort, and that's why I said you stage it if you have to stage it, because that's for the bigger good. And I'm not talking about staging it like, acting as an atheist. No. Coming up with the question nobody else has come before. And I'm talking about any subject matter. I'm just talking about atheism right now, because atheism does not have that kind of dopamine, by the way. Richard Dawkins is not big enough. Okay? Because he's the only source.
He's lost the X factor now. He's too old.
Well, I think John Lennox is the guy who actually reduced all the dopamine. He deflated the bubble. It's like, what did you do, man? I mean, he went in too soon in terms of the, Allah's plan, of course. So what I'm saying is, when you're debating an atheist, it's you debating anybody under that umbrella. That umbrella is not big enough. I know you're in England, most of the English is atheist, okay, I get it. But globally, atheism is not the biggest problem. There's a way bigger problem than atheism.
Of course.
And all those problems are can be dopaminergically sorted. You need to see which one is, in the sweet spot, the green zone. Because a lot of things which are not even going to concern you, which are going to be, highly dopaminergic. But that's not your field of play. Could be, some political, thing going on in America or whatever.
I think, I'll be honest, from my analysis, what I realize is that when we have these authentic exchanges, a lot of people find comedic value in a lot of the stuff that comes out of my videos. And what I realized, therefore, is that we're living in an age where really to get people's attention, you need to have a little bit of not just comedic value, but entertainment value. Which is
good, yeah.
Which is why
those are the fillers,
if you like. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that the way I was thinking in the next 10 years is something effective like a funnel, right? So at the top of it, you've got, like, if you like, the top of the funnel is more content which is intended to entertain. Okay, like, so the entertainment value might be 60 or 70% of the actual content, and at the bottom you have things we do in this very room. So, for example, we go through effectively an education course. we've got hundreds of hours of education course here in the Sapiens Institute where we speak about, feminism, liberalism, atheism, whatever it may be, the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in a critical way. So we've just done 10 parts of the critical seerah, for example. These are things we do. So that's the bottom of the funnel for the enthusiasts, for the ones who want the raw product. The ones who can.
Yeah, but you need to, triple the number of these enthusiasts every year, right? And these serious people who are in those courses, especially doing Sira or Arabi or Hadith, these people are going to be there for whatever reason, no matter you're doing great in the videos or not. That's a certain number. You need to know what that number is. And if you're not increasing that number, you're not doing the job somewhere else.
It's somewhere about 10%.
Yeah, so it has to be about 30-odd%, let's just say 2 years from now.
Sure.
So unless you're doubling this number, somebody else is servicing you this number, by the way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I can get a religious person regardless of whether I am religious or not. So I didn't do anything for that religious person to become religious. He actually is going to come and reject or select me after he listens to me. He was religious way before I even started speaking, right?
Yeah.
So these people are there because of this little basin that was created by somebody else 10 years, 20 years ago. Now you're in the game. And you're not just anybody. I'm not trying to, boost your ego here. I'm trying to give you responsibility.
Yeah, a dopaminergic reaction.
Yeah, you, that's why I spoke about this after we spoke about dopamine. Okay.
Yeah.
No, this is a very big responsibility because you and I are going to be fried 10 times more in the day of judgment. We gave you, we give you a handle on people's minds and hearts. You think that, a lot of Sahabas didn't get that. You need to understand, and we name our kids out of those Sahabas. You're talking about millions of people, Hijab, and this is not an easy pedestal to step on every single day.
You're right.
And you better be a good chess player with this, because you need to know which, where pieces fit. You need to connect all of those, clerics of America and then Canada. And I can't, because you know what? They don't know me. Right?
Well, now they do.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And even if they know me, they're not going to go through why I'm doing whatever I'm doing, because it's not in English most of the time. And I'll give you, since we're recording this, your second entry in Piers Morgan, I was thinking, why did you have to go? I'm telling you, you know why? Because there was a risk you took. You took a risk at that level of charisma, which people are going to stick, because I'm talking about those enthusiasts, remember that. Everybody else doesn't even matter. We're talking about that real drain, that's, that real, what's the word? That pure gold that seeps in through all of those funnels combined. That is the number you need to increase, because you're not going to get everybody to become a Muslim, or every Muslim to become an enthusiast, or every enthusiast to become a performer. But the only way to get performers is through that little, that final count that sticks to you every program. They're learning Hadith and Quran and whatever. Those are your real soldiers, and those are the numbers that you need to increase. So next time, or the second time you went to the Piers Morgan show with, what's his name?
Shmoli.
Yeah. I don't know, somebody named him so appropriately.
Unholy Shmoli.
Yeah. You pull out a card, which I am telling you as a psychologist, like, why did he pull his daughter's card? Why did you have to talk about this? I'll tell you why, because no matter what happens, there's a reciprocative damage that is being done on the Muslim flank here. And I'm not talking about general Muslim. I'm talking about your enthusiasts. You see the risk. You took a risk, and I'm like, okay, he's got some guts to, it takes guts to do that. But did he do it by design, or did he do it out of a reaction? That's the decision regular man is not going to be making.
No, it was by design.
Yeah, I'm sure it's by design, because it's global TV you're talking about. But a regular girl or a boy who's going to sit in your Hadith class a year from now, he's not equipped because he's not old enough, or wise enough, or politically savvy enough. You need to see, you're playing with a very, crude number, which is very volatile right now. Let's just say 10%, you just said. For that to happen, to be in millions, and you need Canada, you need America, you need every Muslim from English-speaking countries. So this is a platform I don't have, you have it.
You have it in a different market now. Urdu is one of the top languages in the world now.
Yeah, but you need to understand, I'm in England right now. You know why I'm in England? Because the people who speak Urdu, the conditions that they're in right now, their IQ is no more than 90 right now. And they're not going to go up to 100 in the next 10 years unless, of course, big exposure comes in. And overseas people who are speaking Urdu, speaking overseas, they're the finest examples of what we can actually, the good parts of the machine. They're not a machine. And you can have some parts of the machine. I have some parts of the machine. I have fewer than yours, but you need my parts of the machine too.
Of course.
And you have no idea where I come from. They're so emotional, and that's the cultural thing. So they're gonna watch your video. Thank God they don't know English. They'll be like, "Why would he talk about somebody's daughter like this?" You know,
But if they know it's
I
who he is, I think they'll give it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it was you had to take you shot him. You shot him. You need him dead. You shot him. But I'll tell you, psychological, tactical error.
Sure.
Because that number is my or your worth.
Oh, the 10%.
Yeah. Everybody else doesn't matter. He was going to give you a lot of things in the plate. You know what I'm saying? And in that show, by the way, that's the only real show where Piers Morgan is pro-you or a pro-Muslim, because he has to compensate for the last episode.
Yeah.
He's compensating. You're not noticing it. He's overcompensating. And instead of you using it to, make them fight with each other, you'd be like, you know what? Let's talk about your daughter's career. Like, whoa, this is working.
But the thing is about it is that it's stuck in everyone's mind, including yours.
Because come on.
I had the dopaminergic reaction.
No, it's not dopamine. It's called, I swear it's not. It's epinephrine. You actually raised. Everybody went through a flurry of epinephrines, like adrenaline.
Oh,
it's
really?
Like, whoa! What did you just do?
I got to manipulate their emotions like this,
Yeah, well,
it's conquest.
You had him in the plate. You had Morgan in the plate.
Yes.
And you could have searched Shmuley on him. It's like, you know what? Here you go. And you know what? He was actually playing. He was jabbing, that guy just to overcompensate.
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that.
Yeah, no. Muslims should go through. Students should go through that tape.
Yeah.
See it as a study of the way Morgan is behaving.
Yeah.
And then you'll be like,
he's not that important.
No, it's not important. Him being important. It's about you being important. You see that? I mean, you could have. I mean, everybody makes mistakes because you're not in the game of politics, and you're in the game of religion. So we expect you to be authentic and make some sort. By the way, show your vulnerable side.
Yes.
Make sure you make some mistakes when it happens. Just let it happen. Because if you're not vulnerable, that number's going to go down.
That's actually one of Robert Greene's laws of power. He says that don't appear too perfect. It's one of the things that he says. As well.
Yeah, well, there you go. He knows what he's talking about. So what I'm saying is, I didn't read that book for many reasons. The first few laws, I didn't really agree with. I couldn't go past the index.
Yeah.
But see, that's not vulnerability you show. You didn't show vulnerability when you were talking about, to this rabbi. I mean,
I know what you mean by vulnerability. You mean, like, for example, the human side of
the nervousness, or or let me ask you something. When if somebody says, "Do you condemn Hamas?" The classical answer of Muslim is not about yes or no. It's about Israel. It's about yes, I condemn Hamas for following the footsteps of Israel. That's your classic answer. This guy would not be able to budge after this. Like, what are you talking about? I condemn Hamas for following the steps for the first time. It's not a Muslim thing to do to follow a Jewish, footstep, but they followed the footstep of Israel. I mean, it's like low class shit, man. That's your classic psychological rebuttal. But the fact that they're playing on this, because it doesn't even matter what they're playing on, because even if no matter what you do, they're gonna be the way they are. I mean, that's their design. He's a job he's doing. He's got a family to feed. He's got a paycheck he's trying to follow.
Yeah.
I get it. But you're not doing it for the paycheck. You're too important.
There wasn't a paycheck there to begin with.
Yeah, I know.
Free, I mean.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
See, you're too important in the audience that is following you. He's not as important in the audience that follows him. See the difference?
I don't think. Yeah, he doesn't have loyalists.
It doesn't matter whether he has loyalists or not. Even if he has loyalists,
he doesn't have a cause.
The career that he's in is not important in the books that the people that his followers read. He's not even a biblical figure, not a preacher. He's a career guy who's doing his job. The thing that he's talking about represents money, and the people who are actually trying to make some sort of even if his big advocacy bank, they don't really. They're not going to follow him for more than a minute after the video is done.
Sure.
Your followers are going to go towards the afterlife or whatever you're going to say. You just see the trajectory.
A lot of people have been telling me this recently. Like, it's true. And I think it has been like nowadays, after the Piers Morgan engagements, things have actually changed a lot. Like in terms of the demographic that I'm dealing with is a completely different.
But that's a volatile demographic. Your real demographic is going to come directly from Hyde Park videos. I'm telling you.
Yeah, they're the kind of somewhere mid-range in the funnel.
No, but those are the people who actually know you from your growths of becoming who you want to be in terms of what you want to achieve.
Sure.
Peace Smoke is nothing that we want to achieve something out of.
No, I got you.
It's
It's like the funnel approach. He's somewhere at the top of the funnel. Like the thing with Shmoli, I considered it to be a lot of it had to engage with entertainment because, like, look, in terms of dopamine, one thing that I've realized, and I do look at the trends and analytics and stuff. We look at viewer retention. I'm not sure if you played around with those on YouTube yourself. Like I look at
YouTube gives it. Yeah, that's the dopaminergic.
Right. Yeah. So, but one thing I realized is that on my smaller videos, I've got an extremely high viewing retention. So it's like
small meaning
anything
10
like
minutes?
Shorts, for example, 1 minute.
But that doesn't count.
No, it counts. It still tells you what.
No, that doesn't count in your bigger plan.
No, sure, I got you.
Release a 4-hour thing.
No, I got the 4-hour thing as well.
Yeah. So what's the
so
difference?
for example, like if I do shorts, it will have something like 95% retention. Yeah. So someone who begins watching it will end watching it. But if I do a 3 or 4 hour engagement, if it's a debate like one I had with David Wood or one I had with Shmo, I haven't got the access to Shmoli's one because it's on his channel. But the clips that we have, it would be much more than if I did a podcast for 3 or 4 hours, if that makes sense. So a lot of it has to be performative for me to keep them on board for that long. Because effectively, at the age at the point of 3 or 4 hours,
what is the percentage of the long videos retention?
It can go up to 30 to 40%.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
that's not because the number you actually have, that's not bad. That's
like the David Wood debate. It's a 4-hour debate, so that we're talking about if we get 34%.
Because of the fact that there was there's a lot more dopamine there because of David Wood.
So with that one, bro, I was just gonna say that I realized quite early on, I think, that for me to keep these guys 18 to 35 demographics, that's my analytics, to keep them on watching, I need to be performative. It cannot just be educational. It cannot be just
true. No, but
professorial. It has to actually be. I have to be not just a public speaker. I have to be a public entertainer. Do you know what I mean?
No, but I don't agree with that. I'll tell you why. Because that's not going to have a bigger, long enough half-life. That's going to run down, and then you're going to have to come up with new comedic, skits.
But if we don't do that, we're not going to compete. So in that sense,
I'll tell you how you're going to compete way bigger. It's the blue ocean thing. Go wherever no one's going. See, science is backing you up right now because of, alhamdulillah, your intelligence, not because of your gimmickry. You need to see.
But do you not think it's a combination of both? There's people that are much more intelligent than I am.
I don't run the numbers. I haven't run your numbers. Yeah. But run it. Do a survey. Bigger control groups. They'll tell you that they stop watching you or tend to when you're not being as intelligent as you naturally are.
Potentially, but I think a lot of it is to do with the comedic effect. Let me give you an example, right?
Okay.
So, do you know, I realized when you look at other academics, people that are in the purely academic field, if you look at their numbers, and I've gotten access to a lot of theirs, they get very low retention rates.
Yeah, true.
Okay, even if they're speaking. Chomsky now because of his age, but before he had, the thing is, I do like watching
Two things.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt you.
Go on.
It's called the Down syndrome. I call it the Down syndrome. You're actually reacting to what people are doing rather than making them react to what you were doing. You cannot delegate your philosophy downstairs. Your philosophy has to be yours.
Sure.
Okay. So let's just say people are actually looking at you. You're more fun for the fact that you can come up with your creative comedic processes, little structures that you incorporate by design. Those people shouldn't be calling the shots on your next move. Next move.
But there must be a degree of reciprocity.
Yeah, there is. I'll tell you what it is. That's what I started with Zakir Naik. You should know that comedy does not even have that kind of dopamine.
Not just comedy, but any
it's
kind
not
of
about comedy. I'm talking about I'm talking about
entertainment.
Gimmickry has two different types.
Sure.
Zakir Naik is as much of a gimmickry as anything else.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's just talk about D-Dot.
Yep.
D-Dot is the best example. If I had to choose one guy in the history of the planet, public speaking, D-Dot. Because D-Dot was doing which nobody could fathom doing. It's not about intelligence. It's not about education.
He had a huge entertainment value as well.
Yeah, but, because it was not his intelligence. It was not his great rebuttals. No. Actually, if anything, the finest of his rebuttals were because of this other guy, which he was quoting. Okay, it was about the guts he was showing. Nobody could dare say this to Christians or, any other religion. The way he was,
charisma.
That was the charisma. Charisma has its structures.
Yeah.
Zakir Naik had his memory.
Sure.
Was creating charisma, even though Zakir Naik is absolutely not a charismatic personality.
I don't know. I think he is in his own way,
Well, yes, your bias is talking. Because otherwise, you take us away.
In his own way, he is.
Are you kidding me with this? No, I mean, I love the guy. I would lie for this guy. But he's not charismatic. I mean,
No, but in his own way.
Which is...
Because how do we define charisma?
Okay, that's exactly what it's breaking it down to.
Sure.
Charisma is something which is an unachievable thing, which you want. And, it's a universal thing that everybody would want, or most of the people would want.
Okay.
There is unfounded... I do not have the formula to achieve.
Okay.
But I know it is there. It's like, a guy who can sing in really good tune.
But how do you put that in a public speaking context? Because, like, for example, I can watch Messi play football and I can feel that that's
he has got
charismatic.
charisma. Yeah, he's charisma. Because we cannot even think about whatever he's doing right now.
But in a public speaking capacity, like, how do you...
Well, Zakir Naik, the way he's pulling out references, people who would want to do that, it's like a superhero effect.
Sure.
Yeah, that is superhero effect.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just call it the Superman effect for now. So this man, Superman, his Ubermensch comes out, okay, because of his, the way he's going to, start quoting the ayahs, even though any scholar would know the ayahs. But the timing and the enemy combine to make a trifecta.
Gotcha.
The timing is key. Hindu makes the dopamine value high, and the machine gun, quoting the ayahs. That combines to make the triangle. That is the trifecta of the charisma in Zakir Naik's case.
Sure.
In your case, you're debating an atheist. Now, if somebody knows the answer to whatever this guy is asking you, your question doesn't even matter. Okay? I mean, your argument doesn't even matter. But if you come up with an argument which is unprecedented, this video is going to get, subscribers. Because that is something which, is an element of surprise.
But there are videos I've done that, I find it interesting you say that, because sometimes the most novel, educationally novel things I've ever said and done are in this very room.
It's not just novel.
Yeah.
It's not just novel. Novelty has its own dopamine, awesome charisma. But novelty at a level where it satisfies, some sort of a difficulty. It overcomes a certain difficulty.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but even that, like a lot of the intellectual challenges.
Okay, that's difficulty.
We do it here at the kind of like the institute and stuff like that. But then I would go to Speaker's Corner or anywhere else, make a couple of jokes, do a couple of gimmicks, or whatever you like, call it whatever you want, and that will get the attention. It is counterintuitive.
Okay, we're missing out on something. That's my mistake. My mistake.
Sure.
Certain age sticks to you. Doesn't really matter. For example, 18 to 20-year-old. They're going to stick to you because of things which are not even charismatic. Okay? If a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old is sticking to you, that requires a lot more, achievement.
Sure.
Okay? Because he's not just going to be looking at, your fast ones that you keep throwing.
Yeah.
He's going to be looking at something which is, substantial, valuable, and for the long haul. You know what I'm saying? This 18-year-old is not even qualified to qualify you. He's looking at that entertainment value only. Okay, he's not even understanding the depth of the argument that you actually constructed. You know what I'm saying? If anything, he is the one who's going to pound on you for making a classical mistake. And he's really good at that. He can qualify that. He's not going to qualify your achievement, but he's going to qualify your mistakes.
Sure.
So this guy is at risk, he has a lose-lose situation. Even if he sticks, he's going to give you a false confidence of whether you actually did something which is, intellectually really high. But that 40-year-old, they're going to be less in number, but if they're going to stick to you...
I agree with that. I think that's probably a good way of putting it. But let's put it to your output, for example, right?
Okay.
Because now that you're speaking to me, many people will be looking and saying, this guy's a good public speaker. Especially if this is not meant to be his first language. He's speaking very well, and you're articulating yourself very well. And you even got good facial expressions, good body language. All of that is there. If I were to strip all of that away and give you a very thick accent and remove your eloquence effectively, but the same information was to be in place, do you think you'd have the same effect?
It would have dopamine, for sure. That's a good question. It would have a totally different age bracket which is, oblivious to, the visible, apparent appeal of things, and go to the heart, which is very less. But those will be just serious people. Okay. Now, I speak in an accent which I would have speak in because of the kind of schools I went to. But people who are going to stick to me because of my hands, my expressions, my body language,
your presentation, your overall presentation, how you look.
Yeah, okay.
If all of that was not present,
Yeah,
and I put you into the body of a man that is morbidly obese, okay, who doesn't look the way you look.
First thing I think of. Okay, yeah,
morbidly obese, doesn't look the way you look like, doesn't speak the way you speak like, but you're saying the same information. To what extent do you think you're going to have the same effect?
Okay, it's called the, without going to little real technicality of this, first 2 minutes of my speech, people actually portrayed the expectation of my body language.
Yeah.
So if I were obese, that effect would have been for the first 2 minutes. After that, the same thing would have happened, whatever is happening right now.
Okay. Maybe in 2 minutes it would have left.
Or maybe it would have, or there's a chance that if I were obese, I had no hair, and I had a very thick accent, but whatever I'm speaking, it could have created a bigger dopamine, arch over this.
But if someone sees all that stuff that they don't like, is that going to cause any kind of...
Well, a lot of people are you're going to see the comments here. They're going to hate the hell out of this conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, see, there are always going to be two extremes. If you are touching a certain subject matter, there's going to be polar, difference between two different... Some people are going to love you, and I know, and I haven't read your comments, by the way, and some people are going to hate you. You're going to find less than 5% of the people are going to actually be like, you know what, I'm indifferent about... If you say something right, I'm going to say yes.
No, I don't create indifference. I don't think you do either. I think
yeah. That's why we actually get along that well, because it's a chemical thing.
Yeah.
We are stern, assertive, and we seem as if we are only going to say something which we're sure about. Now, that's a good thing. But the flip side is, people will be like, you know what, you seem to be
overconfident, arrogant, all that stuff.
Sure about things which you shouldn't be sure about.
Yeah.
Or I'm sure about something exactly the opposite on the same subject which you're sure about, the other side. So it's going to come up with the two different tribes.
Sure.
And that's okay. That's actually a good thing. More heat, more friction, more energy. Okay? People who hate you also think about you. And the fact that they're thinking about you because of the fact that they hate you for the right reasons of philosophy, I like those kind of enemies. They actually keep you going. And, a friend of everybody is a friend of nobody, okay? That's, that means you're a classic hypocrite.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not pissing off the wrong people, you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So it's a job of a Muslim to seriously piss off the shaitan. Like, if you're not hurting Satan, what are you doing on this planet?
Yeah.
And nobody's not a Muslim. You have to be somebody. So you better have some sort of a friction and some serious, cuss words flying around, just because of the fact that you believe in whatever you believe in. And that really enforces your belief. Again, coming back, I think there should be a lot more science going into your thought process.
No, you're helping me think about it. It's just that I'm a student of rhetoric.
That's why.
Yeah, so I'm not a rhetorician by academic trade, by any.
But you gotta be. I'm sorry.
Not by academic trade. I don't do like what do you call it? Reviewed journals on it or anything like that. But I always watch people, and the first thing that whoever they're speaking, or they're doing a public speech, or they're speaking on the radio, wherever it be, the first thing I'll analyze is how they're speaking. The Prophet ﷺ told us, إنما في البيان لسحر, that certainly in eloquence there's magic. So the idea of, and there's a beautiful, actually, an athar, which basically Hassan al-Basri, one of the tabi'is, he came to Muhammad ibn Sirin, who was actually a dream interpreter.
Yeah.
And one of the dreams that he had was that he was on top of a trash heap, and he was, using an instrument, like a flute or something.
It was a flute.
It was a flute, and he asked him to interpret it, and he said, well, this means that you're going to be a fantastic public speaker, and people are going to be listening to you. But what's really interesting in that dream is that effectively music was being compared to public speaking. Yeah. Okay, and I do think there's a great flesh that joins those two elements. For me, it's almost like if you ask a musician. Now, I'm not one of them, but if you ask a musician to analyze Beethoven's symphony, for example, one of his symphonies, or Mozart's works, or whatever it may be, right? and he says, this is what's happening, and this is what it is, and this is why it's good, and this is why it's the best, or whatever, then they'll be able to do so. I think I've developed something of a sensibility of being able to look at something and say, okay, this is why it's good.
I actually used the same dream to come up with why music is haram.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the dopamine that I'm talking about. You know, see, every music note has a wave. Wave has a crest and a trough, this amplitude.
But before you get to this, to land the point, I was going to say that, so with someone like yourself, because I look at it and I do analyze, you have two things clearly to offer, right? Like using you as a case study, right? Not Zach and Ike or somewhere else. But the two things that you have to offer, or any other successful public speaker, is the content of their words, and you can put it this way, what they're saying and how they're saying it, right? Simple as that.
Yeah.
The reason why you become successful is because of both. Because if you could be an academic with exactly, I mean, many people talk about dopamine nowadays. Many people have researched dopamine to a very, very, very high level, written countless peer-reviewed journals. Many of them probably going to be watching this and say, oh, he got this one wrong or that, because everyone now has become a scholar, right?
True.
Do you know what I mean? But this is what it is. There are many people out there that are doing biology and masters and PhDs and so on. And they could sit here on this very chair and talk to me about the very same things as you've spoken to me about. Maybe they wouldn't be able to mesh it in with the Islamic and the politics and all that, because it's interdisciplinary what you've done. However, to do it in the way that you're doing it and to create that product, this is where, if you like, the magic is. That's why I say that public speaking, the dopamine is not just created by the information. It can't be, because if it was, it's just like saying, okay, well, if I put these notes together.
Yeah, it's going to create the same symphony. It's
yeah,
not.
It's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not, because the
like
combination is about between the speaker and the audience. It's not just the speaker and his content. And the audience is going to bring his own chemistry.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I think you should go into not too much, because don't overthink or overkill it.
Sure.
Because if you're going to break your natural self, it's not going to remain dopamine.
It's got to be authentic.
Yeah, it's not. Plus, it's not going to have the same kind of dopamine.
Yeah.
The spontaneity is your dopaminergic source.
Sure.
And if you're actually staging everything, or Frankenstein everything down to a construction of whatever video is going to mix, it's going to lose the charm anyway.
Yeah.
However, having said all of that, you still need, because as a Muslim, because I'm telling you this, unless you, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to bring you 5 million Muslims in the next 10 years so that you can, like passing the baton, that here you go, they're prepared at a certain level. I marinated them. Now you please cook them for me. Okay? And that's something which you should be getting from all the people of the world who are actually in my shoes. That, you know what, these people do not understand English, and I've prepared them enough to actually think critically, go into the next global level, influence, literally influence. The subject matter of my presentation right now in England is the architecture of influence.
Really?
I've broken it down so that kids here can actually influence coming into political arena, coming into power, and affecting the Muslim world. Because Pakistan is not going to affect the Pakistani, intellect. It has to be coming from America or England because of whatever Victoria did. Now, she did whatever wrong she did, but she did help create a platform where Muslims are 4 million are residing right now. We might as well just use it while we're here, or just get the hell back. If we're not going to use that platform, which Victoria did create, then we are the enemy, because somebody else is using the same platform, and we're here. They didn't say don't use it, don't be English. Well, you are English. You're naturally going to use a lot of that platform, so might as well just use it for the bigger objective. So that's what I'm saying. My dopamine would be like, okay, how many people can I give you? Or how many people can you give the other guy? Or wherever the power is needed. Because this is a game of attrition by the end of the day. Sure. It's not about how many guns or bullets we have. It's about how many people we have, how many minds do we have. And we're not going to get billions. There are only 300 or 400 people in the last 500 years that are still paving the ways of how Sweden is going to write the next foreign policy. And there's some philosopher sitting in France, or was sitting in France or Italy or Spain, or Hume or Descartes or Kant. They're still affecting, John Locke is still calling the shots on the American Constitution. But whoever is going to, some guy who is using his mind. Nietzsche is actually become a fashion now. Ubermensch is like a go-to word for every boy who's going to commit suicide. Or not. You know what I'm saying? So Muslims, see, there are no more books of Fyodor Dostoevsky. They created the bigger change in their own time. Now those books are changed by YouTube videos. Same age of audience which were reading Fyodor and now watching YouTube now.
Yeah.
And with the same intent, even deeper and greater intent. So you matter more than Dostoevsky right now. For Russia, he was not as global as you are. Imagine that.
But he is now, I think.
Well, it's still not going to be because the trend is YouTube now. If he were on YouTube, I would be like, yeah, you know, level playing field.
He's
now.
the guy.
Level playing field. No, it's not still. See, that would have been a good adversary. Because he was never going to, the way he wrote, if he had spoken like that, he's never going to get a subscriber, right? Because that's a little too, he builds up too much. Okay? You've read Crime and Punishment, eh?
Yeah.
He builds up too much. I mean, I think it's the best book.
Do you think so?
Oh, yeah. Because Muslims are suffering from one thing.
I think it's a bit overrated. I think Jordan Peterson probably propped it up a little bit more than it should have.
No, he's too emotional about the totally different part of the book. You know why I like the book? A Muslim is not crying over his own sins. That is the only book where Raskolnikov cries over his own sins. We are not guilty in front of our own selves. A Muslim is justifying his sin, a Christian is not. At least he's confessing. I mean, he's not justifying it, he's confessing to some priest somewhere. Because he calls it, a sin.
You mentioned Nietzsche. I mean, I think there's a profound impact that Nietzsche had on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I used to like, okay, I come from the land of Iqbal. Have you heard the name Iqbal?
Oh, yeah, of course, Iqbal, yeah.
Yeah, if people think he was stealing from Nietzsche.
Nah,
I'm
really?
telling you, people, yeah, all kind of people do. I don't. He came up with a totally different concept because he was a follower of the Prophet. He knew Ubermensch. Like, you couldn't construct the wings right, man. I mean, there's a lot more that a man could do, and we have that man who did it. Coming back, Crime and Punishment comes up with this concept, which I think a Muslim man is missing right now.
Sure.
And he's a religious person, Fyodor. He came up with it from the Bible. He came up with it from Matthew's, actually, from John as well. If you cannot possibly punish your own self for your own sin, then there's not going to be any good. And that's a very Muslim concept. That's tazkiyah. That is tazkiyah. That dude did not know tazkiyah, right? But he came up, he actually combined both of these, John and Matthew, one verse each, so that he can actually confess to his own self. I mean, this is not even the complete picture.
Are you talking about the end of the book where?
When Sonia is talking about committing suicide and the prostitutes, because she's giving him a lecture.
Yeah.
He's actually speaking through Sonia to Raskolnikov.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and that's where he's actually thinking that this is. By the end of the day, he is one writer writing three different characters, right? That's what most of the readers are getting. It's not actually Sonia the prostitute. It is Dostoevsky, man.
Yeah.
So that actually, really, stirs you up that, what, this is why am I not thinking like this? But every Muslim man naturally had to go to tazkiyah. The word was as common as it gets.
Sure.
And the fact that we cannot confess to any priest, that actually puts a harder or a bigger burden on my shoulders. That who am I confess to? Oh, you go into the sajda, man. That's called tawbah.
Isn't that what Iqbal said? He said that something about 1,000 prostrations. Do you know the what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it says that one sajda that is so heavy on you is going to relieve you of the burden of 1,000.
Beautiful.
Yeah. It's in Urdu. Oh my God! If I only wish you knew Urdu.
Do you know it?
Oh yeah. वो एक सजदा जो तुझे गिरां गुजरता है, हजार सजदों से देता है आदमी को निजात.
Wow.
Man,
sounds nice.
Frees the man from 1,000 prostrations. It's just one.
He's really one of the top Pakistanis of the last 200 years.
There's no way you can compare. It's like rest of the country versus this one guy. The amount of the brains this guy actually produced. It's too amazing. It's too amazing. So again, so how can I possibly be tilted towards Nietzsche when we have Iqbal? Which is actually, but it's ironically the same time. Coming up with the same sort of concept at the same time. My father was into poetry, and he had actually come up with, because my own favorite poet is not Iqbal, it's another guy. So
what's his name?
You wouldn't know him because he's not into philosophy.
Sure.
Shukaib, Shukaib Jalal. He's a classical poet in Pakistan, just poetry, nothing else. But my father was writing in Alaska, whatever he was writing in Lahore, same kind of concept. So it happens. I mean, I understand this happens. Coming back, why are we talking about just crime and punishment? I'm talking about your effect. You are writing crime and punishment. You just have to look at it from that angle. Every video of yours is a chapter from a book. And someone is going to write it, inshallah, after you die or whenever, someone's going to come up with this. Because of the kind of seriousness you're putting into your work. And that someone is not going to do justice. Because he's going to be, writing about you.
So maybe I need to do an autobiography then, like Malcolm X.
Yeah, again, well, I would presume that would be like Malcolm X.
Have you seen his? Well, hopefully it doesn't end that way. But have you read his autobiography?
I have read it. I have gone through so much detail about this guy. That's why I'm thinking there was a lot more. Most of the people that know Malcolm X don't really know Malcolm X. Unless you, of course, go through whatever he was going through. And it's not just him, by the way. It's all of Nation of Islam, actually. Because only some knew that he was not actually Nation of Islam.
Yeah. Well, he was at one point, and then he left.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But he was not. I mean, he's done. Like
his
Muhammad,
own
that's totally different. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a totally different concept. But again, you're right. Somebody's going to make a Malcolm X out of you.
Maybe, hopefully not. Not to get shot dead at the age of 39.
I wish that's the exact opposite of what I want to get shot. I swear. I wish. I don't want to die in a hospital or a bed. That's not the way to go.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah. Well.
Now you've made me think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to provoke it because that will be suicide.
Yeah.
But I am going to ask for it. Remember the prayer of Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas and he said, "Oh my God, we both prayed for the same thing, and he's successful and I failed." Because he's martyred. That's Uhud, right? Yeah, the night of Uhud. Night of Uhud.
Amazing. We're actually going to have a whole lesson on that soon.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, see, when I see you, I swear to you, I see a number, and I see a number because the Prophet said that on the Day of Judgment, the only sense of pride that I will have is the number of Muslims in the Ummah. You think that totally changes the way you look at your videos. I look at your videos, and that should change the number, the way you look at numbers, because you need to create that little, plan of how to get those numbers, because it's all about who you're bringing in. It's not about who's winning what debate. It's about who you're bringing in. Because no one's going to remember any argument. No one's going to remember a joke or no one's going to remember which video I liked, what year, and that doesn't really stick.
Yeah, what does stick is what Unholy Shmoli's daughter's line of business is.
Oh, I'm telling you, she might convert, man.
Yes, she might.
Yeah.
Well, on that bombshell, I want to really thank you for coming today.
No, are you kidding me? Thank you for having me.
Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I feel like I've been coached myself, actually, for now.
I have that beer curse. I'm sorry. It's an occupation.
No, it's really good. No, it's good. I like it. It's good that you come with that. And people are going to be wanting to watch your videos. So you're going to put your name, which is Sahil Adeem. I'll put the spelling on this video. And, of course, they're going to be subscribing to you as well and following your work, your great work in Urdu language.
Well, they're not going to... Well, there's a lot of English work, but we're going to be... Because I'm on this English tour, and I'm going to be going to Norway now. It's only English. So there's going to be a lot more English content. But my message it's not about coaching or psychology. It's about coming into the mission. I think more Muslims should actually start writing down a mission statement that, in next 10 years, start chasing longer lives, start chasing awesome deaths.
Beautiful. That is excellent.
Yeah, this is the least. That's the start of Islam. If you're going to start chasing awesome deaths, only then Hussein is going to come in and Ali is going to come in. Umar Khattab is not a name for us. It's not a name. We just start naming our kids Umar and create copies of Sahil in there. Umar Khattab is a philosophy. It's a system.
Yeah, and Shakespeare has a beautiful saying, which is that a coward dies a million deaths.
Oh, yeah.
Because every day is...
No, I'll just quote Umar Khattab here. He prayed that, God save me from the fitna of a qawi kafir or a zaif mu'min. Imagine the shatter of a self-esteem from a Muslim like me, that Umar Khattab was praying to save himself from me. The fitna of a qawi kafir or zaif mu'min. Imagine what he was going through. And if, a guy like me faces him, he'd be like, dude, I'm the guy. Just stay away from me. It's you're a curse, you're a cancer.
They're a different level. They're a different caliber.
Yeah.
But on that, thank you for watching, guys. And make sure that you tune in for the next irregular episode of the MH podcast. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.